Good evening. Okay, so let us get started. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming here this evening. This is a really important day for us because this is really the start of our movement to bring about suicide prevention and mental well-being and mental health, starting at UCF. And before I get started, I want to say a couple of few thank yous. Firstly, I want to welcome Dr. Deepak Chopra, who's been here today. Dr. Thad Seymour, president of UCF, who's been very generous for your time. Thank you. Candy Crawford, from the president and CEO of Mental Health Association of Central Florida. Gabriella White, my friend and co-founder of Never Alone. Shane Junton, Shane from Student Services at UCF and his team. Big shout out, behind the scenes, making everything work. And I want to thank a very special person this evening, Colin Caulfield. Colin, can you please stand up? Yeah. Colin is from Florida, and I met him about 6 months ago, Colin, right? He was in San Diego, and he says, Punach, I really want to support the Never Alone movement, and I want to do something in Florida. And this is actually the start of what he conceived. So I want to say a big shout out to Colin Caulfield. Okay? Thank you. Behind the scenes, his mom, Gloria Caulfield, has been a great support to us. And once again, I want to thank Patricia Hacker. Thank you. And once again, it's really been helpful in putting this movement together. So just want to set the stage. How many of y'all have actually had somebody, a loved one, lose a loved one, or have a breakup in a relationship, or had a personal, I would say, personal relationship not work out for you guys? Put your hands up. Great, right? Keep your hands up. How many of y'all have lost a loved one, had a breakup? How many of y'all know somebody who's had mental health, depression? How many of y'all had lost somebody to suicide? Just keep your hands up. So when you keep your hands up, you realize everybody here, right, has had some adversity. Thank you, put your hands down. Had some adversity in their life. Everybody. Adversity is neutral. It does not discriminate. Everybody goes through adversity. What happens is our response to adversity. When we are going through something, we believe we are alone, right? When you look in this room, everybody's had some adversity. And what's different is that we forget that we are social beings. We are wired for being human, connecting with people. We're not designed to be alone, right? Let's kind of play it back. Let's say thousands of years ago, we were in the Ice Age. As hunter-gatherers, we had to stay together, right? We hunted together. We basically shared our food. We gathered. And when we went to sleep, we actually made sure somebody was watching the fire while the rest could sleep, right? So that's how we were wired. Our central nervous system is wired for us to be social beings. Now what happened? Let's say I was a young child and I got isolated from my group, from my tribe. A couple of things would happen. I would become hyper-vigilant. That means if there was a twig walking or breaking on the behind me, I would say, oh my God, is that a saber-toothed tiger? Because I don't have my buddies, I don't have my tribe with me. So if you just think about it, thousands and thousands of years, we really need to connect as people, right? So what happened? What changed? And it's fascinating. How did we go from that social being, social connection, to now all of a sudden, every 40 seconds, globally, somebody commits suicide. In this great nation, every 12 minutes, right? On campus, we have 1,100 students who lose their life, and 24,000 of them have attempted, right? That's big statistics. 12% of the students on college campuses in the 4 years they've been on campus have ideated a suicide. So think about it, and a very interesting statistic, 75% of them have spoken to somebody. 75% of them have spoken to somebody. So really the call to action for us is how can we really become more socially connected? I was reading this quote from Dr. Murthy, who was the former Surgeon General. As endocrinologist, he thought when you're seeing patients, most of them would come for maybe heart disease or diabetes, but most of them came to him because of loneliness. So loneliness is an epidemic of our times, and really what we want to do is to address the social epidemic, right? And my good friend here, Dr. Ara Sopaya, was actually with the Hadza tribe, probably among the few of the, I would say, hunter-gatherers left in Tanzania. And he was telling me that he was trying to talk to them and ask them, the chief, the question, do any of you get depressed? First of all, he said they didn't have a word called depression. They had to figure this out. Eventually, he said, yeah, we do have some tough times, and we kind of spend a day and we figure it out, right? The second question he asked, does anybody in your tribe ever commit suicide? Was there anybody who take their own life? And apparently, he just fell off. He's like, why would they do that? What is it? That's our tribe. We are a tribe. We stay together. So what I'm saying is that somewhere along the way, we have forgotten that we need to be connected. So the goal of this evening is to really share the movement we have started to really create. The first thing is conversation, right? When people are lonely, two things happen. One, their life seems almost invisible. They come to campus, it's almost like nobody ever sees they're there, invisible. The second thing that happens, their life becomes inconsequential. What I do really doesn't matter. Why does it? It's okay. So our goal today is to ensure that we can always have a conversation. The second thing we want to do with the movement is to foster and nurture a connection, a community, so we can always feel that we are never alone. Somebody's always got our back, right? The third thing we need to do is to really bring to light curated programs and content from experts. And that's really why Dr. Seymour and Candy Crawford are here, to really highlight the amazing work which is already happening within the community. So that's really our goal this evening. We'll kind of show you a very short film, just a sneak preview of what we are planning. And you have all our information. Please give us your feedback and comments. And after that, we will have a panel, a kind of Q&A, and then we'll close it up with a meditation from Deepak, right? With that, I would like to invite Gabriella Wright to kind of introduce the film and why we are here, and what we have to plan for next.
You kind of said it. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's lovely. This is my second time to the state of Florida. I'm English, French, so I speak multiple languages, but I do not know this language of the Floridians. But we are here tonight with another language. If you've noticed on our logo, it's never alone, and you will see the highlight of love. So tonight we are going to connect to the invisible language that really is who we are as human beings, who we are as an offering to each other. The film that we have created, we're still creating, and you will see in the next few minutes a 20-minute short version of it, is really like it's like a time bomb. It's so that all this can explode and explode our ways of communication. How can we speak about things that are hidden within us? How can we speak about things that are very deep, and sometimes words are difficult to communicate them? So this film, we follow a character who I interpret, I interpret a mother who loses her son to suicide. And as things go, these things are not planned. Along the way, she meets many experts. Dr. Deepak Chopra is one of them. And she goes to understand what is consciousness life and all the journey that pursues. So this is cute, minute preview. I hope you enjoy it. The director is not here tonight, Michel Pascal. He's also our fourth co-founder, and he apologizes for any non-color grading and et cetera, because we still are in post-production. So I hope you enjoy it, and I don't need to say much because really everything has already been said, but I think it's more what can we feel, and I hope that you will feel something whilst you experience the film. Thank you.
Every 40 seconds, someone dies by suicide. Suicide is the second most common cause of death among those aged between 10 and 34.
What's happening exactly?
I came back from work and normal day, it's traffic. It's busy on the phone like I always am. And I walked through the door and I called for my son. We live alone. His father left us many, many years ago, so I'm the breadwinner and I take care of him. And as I walked through the door, I felt something. I actually felt nothing.
If it's too much difficult, don't tell.
No. I opened the door to his room. And there he was, hanging from his top window. I ran to him and I tried to take this, it was some kind of robe. I tried to take it off and I could see his neck. It was just so bruised, and I took his I tried to feel his heartbeat, and there was nothing there.
Welcome to the Never Alone Conversations, a positive way to talk about mental health and suicide prevention. I'm your host, Joshua Thompson. And we have a special guest today, Gabriella Wright, co-founder of the world movement, Never Alone.
Created with Dr. Deepak Chopra, Punarcha Machaya, and Michelle Pascal. Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's not a film, it's not a documentary. It's a combination, it's like a testimonial. It's built on true stories, a combination. And my director, Michelle Pascal, shot it in a very, very raw style to lessen the gap between the audience and the subject. I am a meditation teacher for the parolees in Los Angeles at Amity Foundation. Of course, at the beginning, we don't realize that life's going to change. It's just not possible. He was perfect at school. His teachers said that he was so focused, concentrated. He loved his friends. He was participating all the time. I don't know. I mean, we live in Los Angeles. It's sunny every day. I just thought he was happy. Yeah. Can you give me a kiss?
Have a good day.
So yes, Hollywood means that we have a mansion, 2 swimming pools, and sauna, and, servants. No. We live in a very simple apartment in LA. It's a 1-bedroom. Actually, not really a 1-bedroom. It's a studio, and I sleep out in the front, and he has the room, and that's where he loves to burn his incenses with these little Tibetan pictures. I suppose they're Buddhist. He was in his world. I just let him be in his world. It was very difficult. But I was very lucky. I got to meet Deepak Chopra.
Well, there are many ways to come to terms with what you're going through. First is actually on a very practical, normal human level, and that is grief must be experienced when there is grief. We must embrace it. The more you suppress it, the worse it gets. And grief is a sign of not only loss, but it's also a testimony to the love that you shared. So it's important to recall those moments of love. At the same time, it's very important to embrace the grief and sadness. And emotions are always referred to as feelings because we feel them in our body. They're not just mental events. So grief is felt in the heart, as you know, in the pit of the stomach. And you should embrace that. And you should also recall the most precious, beautiful, loving moments that you had and invite his presence in your heart and feel it. He's present in your awareness, and he was present in your awareness when he was in physical form, because everything we experience is an awareness.
I also had the opportunity to meet Michael Beckwith in New York, and it's pretty incredible to meet a spiritual person who speaks beyond any religion.
I have spoken to individuals who are on the verge of suicide. And to the best of my ability, I seek to let them know that their life is precious, that they did not create their life. The life is an extension of the Creator presence, and that this presence, by whatever name we choose to call the presence, has given us so much potential, and the potential within us is greater than the problem we're facing. So we don't give up. It may be hard, it may be tough. We may be on the ground, we may be on our back, but there's something within us that's so precious that we have to find a way to cultivate it and express it. The principle is this: potential is always bigger than the problem. So I tell people, please, one day, one day, one day, I invite individuals to do something every single day, just for one day, not for a year, not for 5 years, just one day. Give yourself one more day until you discover that that which is within you is greater than the issue.
Why is it happening more today? I think increasingly people are feeling alienated from themselves and from the web of existence, from the web of relationship, from the web of life.
If you stay alive, then he stays alive.
When someone takes their life, they're in a spiritual crisis. They don't feel like they belong here anymore. Yes, I think that he's really telling you the answer, and the answer is that he wants to go back home to the Himalayas, that that's really where he wants his ashes to be.
My son is alive. He's well. He's at school. I'm an actor, but I'm also a human being with a story. And whilst we were shooting this film, we tried to make a film about suicide prevention years ago. We started in France. Nobody wanted to make it. 10 years ago, suicide wasn't the second cause of death. It was way further down the list. But 2 years ago, I decided to pick up this project with Michel Pascal. We started it very rawly, very simply, because we knew that telling this story was the most important thing we could do for one another as a collective. During the filming, my little sister died. She took her own life, and we had to stop everything. So we stopped. please send your solutions because we don't have them all. Every story matters, every solution matters, so send them to us so we can co-create this movement together and all be a one world family.
We've struggled from this disease.
Leave my sneakers underneath my bed, and whenever I was going through a hard time, I would put my shoes on, go outside, and I would just run for my life. I would run, I would run, I would run, I would sweat, I would fight through the pain, and in the end, I was left with a calm mind, and this is how every single day I became stronger.
This movement is so important. And you are not alone. You are not alone.
It's not that we have the solution, but we are the solution.
I can be a representative of a survivor of depression for Asian people, Asian community, because it's not common for Asian people to speak out about their mental health issue. And in my life, many times I had experienced depression to different degree. Some of those are very extreme to the point where it was near close to feel or having the thought of suiciding. And fortunately, I survived all of these experiences.
The loneliness and fear of being rejected over and over and told you're worthless and things takes its toll, and I so understand that, and my own feelings of wanting to commit suicide have stemmed from that type of treatment in the world. First thing I say is I understand, and I want to listen to you. I want to hear who you are. And as we make that connection and it becomes deeper, then solutions begin to happen. They begin to appear out of our conversation.
And this is the metaphor. This film is the metaphor for the story of humanity. It's how the exchange of storytelling can empower one another and heal us.
And I am an international DJ producer. I've been there before where I've been really depressed and felt really, at the bottom. So music to me is my biggest therapist. I have 3 pillars of strength, which I like to see it as when it comes to myself and being able to get out of my depression. And it was music, working out, and spirituality. And they were like it was like my triangle.
I think first of all, it's very important to have this conversation. And this conversation needs to be part of our collective conversation.
All right, well, welcome back, everyone. And I have to say thank you for your leadership.
What is it to be a human being today?
And he says, you are not alone.
It needs to be on social media. It needs to be in films.
Every 40 seconds, somebody commits suicide. In this country, every 22 minutes, fatal veterans die every day. I'm so grateful that this film will actually reach the souls and be the transformation we all want to see.
So here we are. We are at Carnegie Hall. We are able to share with the world and launch this movement.
It needs to be in education. It needs to be in schools.
Take a deep breath. Relax.
As Deepak says, when we calm the mind, we can change the world.
When we calm our mind, we can change the world, and we'll never feel alone, never alone forever. When we calm our mind, we can change the world, and we'll never feel alone, never alone forever.
let me invite on stage Dr. Deepak Chopra, Dr. Thad Seymour, Candy Crawford, Gabriella. Okay. First of all, this is a very tough panel to moderate, so I'm just going to ask one question, let it go. So, you know, the statistics we are at UCF, and when I look at the statistics, about 1,100 deaths on campuses, 24,000 attempted, 12% of them ideated in the 4 years. Those are staggering numbers. What is happening to our youth? What do you think is going on? And Dr. Seymour, maybe I'll have you lead it from your thoughts, and then everybody can pitch in and answer.
Happy to start. And first, let me thank all of you for being here on campus and for tackling with us this really important subject. It takes this kind of leadership and discussion and work, Candy, the work you all are doing as well, to help us work together as a community to make a difference. You know, and the numbers you identified are staggering, and when we think about those at a big university, those are big numbers also. 12% of our student population is about 8,000 students who, if the statistics apply here, would be that number who at some point during their career may ideate, and on and on. And so we have to take these seriously. And I think we all understand the college years are really challenging. Those are tough. It's a tough age. The pressures that come with being, I'm not telling you students anything that you don't know, whether they're financial pressures, academic pressures, social pressures, times of loneliness. College campuses can be places where this is a particularly acute challenge. What I'm so proud of is the great work of our teams here working with our students and our faculty and all the staff to address it. Our CAPS program, we have a number of the people. Those of you who work with CAPS, can you raise your hand? We have a few of you, I think, here. Thank you, there you are. They just do phenomenal work on behalf of our students and constantly evolving and changing. And I think a big part of this is it's a much more open conversation, certainly, than it was when many of us were this age and in college. And that gives me great hope.
Thank you. And do you have any thoughts from your perspective? You've been doing this well over 10 years in your current role. What are some of the things you've seen work in the community, especially in this particular topic?
What the president said is so true. All of those things factor into it. And, you know, we're now getting to the point where we're really getting down to specifics. And everybody in this room can play such an important role. And it's that initial communication with each other that really matters. And when you're talking to someone, that response that you give to when someone says something to you, that immediate response can make or break the rest of the conversation. Used to, we didn't really talk about suicide ideation. But the one important thing that you can say to someone is to make it safe for them to talk to you, and that is to open the door. And if you have any idea that your friend, your loved one, your neighbor, if you have any reason to ever think for a moment that you need to open that door, you need to open that door. And you need to do it just gently, saying, do you ever have thoughts about hurting yourself? Or maybe even do you ever have suicidal thoughts? Now, you're not going to be, everybody's not just inclined to just jump into that, but that is the number one way to tell someone it's safe. It's safe to talk to me about that. You have done more than you will ever know that you could do for someone. Because until you do that, they're not going to bring it up. And when you have someone talking about it, you're likely that they will never do it. Please remember that. So that's number one. That communication element right there could be the one thing that can make a difference. And your response should be just as compassionate and caring if they had just told you that I lost a loved one, or I lost my boyfriend or my girlfriend or my partner, or whatever the situation might be. You should be just as compassionate to them if they told you that. Think of it in that realm and be responsive just that way. Then you're telling them you care. You're not going to fix it. You're not the person to fix it. Do not give advice. Do not tell them, no, that you shouldn't think that. Look at your life, how wonderful it is. Do not do that. Don't do something like that because you're going to hurt your wonderful family. They're already thinking that they're hurting everybody around them. They're worthless to everybody around them. I'm hurting everybody. Don't go there. You don't know what's going on with them. Don't try to fix something that you are not prepared to do. So that communication could make all the difference in the world for that person. Opening that door. We used to have the idea you don't want to say anything about suicide because you're planting the idea. You are not planting the idea. No. So don't be afraid of that. If they come back and say, oh no, I have never had ideas like that, that's good, great. That's great. And also, you know, you need to know that they need to know that you care. That My Story Matters is one of the programs that we have at the Mental Health Association. People want to be able to come and tell their story. We give them a safe place to do it. They come and they tell their story. And we have other people that want to tell their stories that are there to listen to it. Boy, does that make a difference to people. They really matter. We're sitting there, we're going to listen to your story, and you can tell it. And if you want to, if you feel really good about it when you get through, we'll post it on our Facebook. And some of them just really love to do that. But they've given their story, and it means a lot to them. So we work very closely with UCF. Their interns are our champions at our office. They make a difference for us, and I've told the president that many times, how great they are to work with and what they mean to us. They help us run our free clinic. They're master level students in this school are the ones that help us run our free clinic, and they're fantastic, and we love them. So we offer free services to people who have no insurance and no money, and we serve about 350 of those people a year, long-term care and medication. So we're very proud of that, and in UCF, Orange County government and Advent Health Hospital make that possible.
Thank you. Deepak, I think the story, I've been with Deepak over a decade now, and every time somebody stops him, they tell their story. You know, and there was a time when I said, you know what, we got to go. I said, it's okay, Punacha. Let them tell their story. I would like to listen. Deepak, what are your thoughts? If so many people have told you stories. When you listen to this, what are you thinking?
I think we need to readdress what education is all about. You know, we're in the university right now, and education is always portrayed as the means to success. And there's a lot of pressure about that, and also a lot of misconception about success and what it is. And I hate to say this in a university campus, but education has nothing to do with your happiness, period. Okay? Has nothing to do with your happiness. And education has become all about information overload. If I want information, I go to Google. I mean, I don't need to go to the University of Florida to get information, or Harvard or Oxford or any place. I think what we've lost in our society is first what success means. You know, in Eastern wisdom tradition, success is the progressive realization of worthy goals. It's the ability to love and have compassion. It's also to be intimate with your own self, not your self-image, but yourself. And, you know, about a decade ago or more, I was with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who's, if you've ever seen him on TV or live, he's a very happy guy. And, you know, he exudes happiness for no reason, which is our essential state. But he asked the scientists, he said, can you do a little bit of research on what makes people happy? Not what makes people sad, but what makes people happy. Because when you don't have happiness, then you go the other way. And so, you know, a lot of research has been done on this, by the way. And social scientists talk about something called the happiness formula. So here it is, the happiness formula. H is equal to S plus C plus V. So H stands for happiness. S stands for something called the set point in the brain. That set point is determined almost for everyone in the first 5 years of life. So if your parents and your siblings and your immediate caretakers were always criticizing, condemning, playing the victim, basically looked at life as a problem, then you grow up with a set point. There's a phenomenon called mirror neurons. The child's neurons mirror the neurons of the environment, and so they get to be unhappy people. If, on the other hand, your parents and siblings and whole ecosystem, instead of looking at life as a problem, looked at life as opportunities for growth, for creativity, for inspiration, for higher consciousness, then you turn out to be a happy person. Now this, what we call this, the set point, this, according to, again, social scientists, this is about 50% of your happiness experience every day is just your attitude to life. And the question is, can you change it? Can you change it? Because you did not create your set point. It was created for you in the first few years of your life. As Ponacha said, we are social animals, and mammals, in fact, all mammals, don't look at just human beings. Look at primates, other mammals. The prime mammal, the word mammal comes from the word mama, which means mother, mater, breast, or mama. Mammals are breastfeeding. But if you look at mammals in general, they all have extremely important social bonds with nurturing groups. We call them families as humans, but all mammals do that. They breastfeed, they touch, they coo, they cuddle, they sing. Did you know that all mammals sing, that all mammals play? And we as a society have lost that. We don't, you know, we're not singing enough, we're not playing enough, we're not joyful enough, we don't communicate enough. We are trying to get good grades, okay? Thinking that that's the key to our happiness. So can we change the set point? Yes, the answer is through reflection, through mindfulness practices, but also these days, and you probably know a lot more about this, there's something called cognitive therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, awareness-based cognitive therapy, which allows the person to reflect on their limiting beliefs, because all depression comes from limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough is the basic limiting belief. You know, I'm not attractive enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not going to get good grades, I'm not going to be successful. And cognitive therapy questions this. Is it true? How do you know it's true? Are you 100% sure if it's true? What is this limiting belief doing to you? What is the opposite of it? And, you know, a little bit of reflection, the set point changes. But there's a process to it. It's not just saying, you should be happy. Okay, you actually take them through reflection, through mindful awareness, but also through behavioral things. And behavioral things include what we call mental hygiene, which is the same as physical hygiene. Good sleep, meditation, managing stress, exercise. There's now something called the polyvagal theory, which means that when you deep breathly, when you smile, when you have what is called vagal stimulation through yoga, through chanting. These are now known therapies for stimulating the healing nerve in our body, which actually goes everywhere, including influencing the microbiome. We have Naveen Jain here, who heads a company that looks at the microbiome, the health of your bacterial genes. So that can all be changed through these practices and even through diet, through food. So we have to pay attention to these pillars of well-being: sleep, meditation, exercise, yoga, breathing, particularly yoga and breathing, which stimulate the vagus nerve, and then also to social interaction, to seeing how we can impact each other's capacity for empathy and love and compassion and joy. So that's the first part of the happiness formula. 50% of your experience every day is your attitude. Is life a problem? Is life an opportunity? The second part of the formula, which is C, H is equal to S plus C, is conditions of living, and it applies to financial conditions. So there are two kinds of communities that are extremely unhappy: the extremely poor and the extremely rich. And the reason is they both think of money all the time. It becomes their identity. So this is also well looked at. If you win the lottery today and you make $20 million, you'll be very happy today. You'll be happy for the next 6 months. In 6 months, you'll return to your set point. And in 5 years, you're likely to be more unhappy than you were before you won the lottery, because now you're worried about taxes, you're watching the stock market, you're thinking of all these issues that come with having too much money. So 10% of your happiness depends on how much money you have. 10%. So that leaves 40% at the last. That's called V. H is equal to S plus C plus V. These are the choices we make every day. So there are two kinds of choices we make every day. One is for personal pleasure: sex, alcohol, entertainment, food, shopping. Shopping is, by the way, the number one reason people seek happiness through shopping in the world. And that's why we have an ugly word for human beings. It's called consumer, But do these activities make you happy? They do, in fact, but only for a few days. Then you have to repeat the pleasurable experience. And if you have an addictive personality, then it can lead to addiction. But there's another choice that you can make every day for happiness, and that is, do you have meaning and purpose in your life? Are you expressing your creativity? And most importantly, can you make other people happy? The fastest way to be happy is to make somebody else happy. So, and you can do that just by paying attention to them, which means listening to them, noticing something strong and good about them, which is called appreciation. Affection, letting them know you are there and you care about them. And acceptance. Don't try to change other people, because it's hard enough for you to change yourself. Okay? Trying to change somebody else so you feel better is kind of insane. So once we know the dynamics of things, I think we need to do all the things you're saying. We also need to focus on joy as an experience every day in our lives, because that's how we were born. We weren't born depressed. Nobody's born depressed. Babies are full of wonder, full of curiosity. They're friendly, they're smiling all the time. They're full of joy, except when they're wet or hungry, which is a biological need. But otherwise, a child is naturally joyful. So what are we doing as a society to take away our natural, innate capacity for joy? That's what we need to address as a society. So Never Alone, I think, is a very important movement which says yes, let's focus on mental health, let's focus on physical well-being, let's be there to support each other, but let's also figure out how to create an ecosystem of joy, of love, of compassion, of empathy, of creativity, okay, of insight, of imagination, of inspiration. So, there is a problem, but there's a solution which is not always focusing only on the problem, but what our innate capacity is for creating a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful life, personally and collectively. I think the solution is obvious, but we need to harness the experts as well, but also invite all of you to share your stories, not only about, what happened to you when you were sad or depressed, but what makes you happy, what makes you joyful. These stories, we are storytellers, humans are storytellers. This is our, and this is a double-edged sword, because other mammals don't tell elaborate stories about their life. We do, and we have to be aware of what is the narrative inside us. What is the story you're telling yourself? Is there another story? Because every story you have has infinite other stories entangled there. So that's, my little thing from what I learned from the happiness experts.
Thanks, Deepak. Wow. While Deepak was speaking, I was just thinking of what Dr. Ara said. Another story he shared with me this morning was the Hadza tribe, every evening when the sun set, they would actually sit down around a fire. Their social network was around a fire. And he said, I was asking him, how come we have the whole thing about bullying on campus, we have this thing about, I said, does anything happen with the tribes? Anything like this? Did you see anything when you were there? He said, no, Panacha. I said, there was one young hunter who was, while hunting, didn't really do a good job. And apparently in the evening, they all kind of laughed around the fireplace. And then the chief went and took out his bow and arrow and showed him how to do it right. And the next morning, he made that young hunter go out and keep practicing on all the birds, right? And this whole thing about holding each other, mentoring each other, I think that's something we need to kind of really keep in mind. So that's my second question. How do we build trust? I think a lot of things when I work with people and with the stories we hear, a lot of them say, I don't trust anymore. And for a young person who's in a network, when their friends who they trusted says something on social media, they're part of a sorority, and all of a sudden the sorority sisters let them down, everything falls apart. How do we, what are some solutions for trust? Anybody? How do we build trust?
Let me talk about a slightly different way as I was reflecting. Thank you for those thoughts. I was thinking back 2 years ago on any college campus where people just didn't talk about these hard issues. And this shift from, in many ways, this being if we were to identify a student maybe who was having some challenges, though that's a counseling center problem. That's where the solution is. Versus, I think now recognizing increasingly that it's a community problem. It's our tribe. It's if one person is having a challenge, it's everyone's challenge and opportunity. And so the way we're embracing this in this campus is by building trust in ways that, like Candy talked about, but also educating faculty, staff, and students to identify students or others who may be having a problem or struggling in a way that we might not have, in the past we might have turned the other way. Helping through that first line of support, but also getting them to experts who can help. But that's rooted, I think, in trust. And I meant to say at the beginning, one of the reasons this topic is so important to me is I lost a sister 5 years ago to suicide. And 5 years ago last month. And for much of her life, she battled depression and bipolar disorder for 2 decades. And even in that time, it shifted from go someplace and get fixed, go to the center, take medication, all those things are part of it. But I'd like to think we're heading in a direction that it's a broader community set of solutions. But that now doesn't allow us to let it go. It requires that we be part of that solution. And that, back to your original question, I think has to be rooted in trusting each other,
Thank you,
building trust with others.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, trust is something that's so important as human beings. You know, first of all, we're gender, male, female, so we have to understand how we communicate already between the different energies that we embody. But not only that, it's what is the common language that human beings have with each other? And I think other than the language that we speak, it's how we feel and how we experience each other beyond words. And beyond words, the experience of each other is a deep listening, and it's a feeling that slowly opens us up to an experience of empathy and possible compassionate action, which is where you go into the selfless service, and you serve and you help, and it becomes a spontaneous way of being. But I'm saying that why it's important, because to build trust, as an actor, you have to trust what you're going to say. Otherwise, you sound fake on stage. Or you're going to be like the Z actor on the list, or you're just not going to sound right. There's a particular sounding to the listening and the embodiment of trust. So trust is not only trusting the other, it's trusting the language that you're creating with yourself, and what is the self. So going back to Deepak's interesting and life's work of what is the self-awareness, you see. So trust is something that it's not directed to the outside, it's directed to how we present ourselves to our inner world and how we feel that we're living our highest truth. We're at our highest potential. And it's a powerful moment to be in the vulnerable trusting. So all of a sudden you share your vulnerability and you're trusting that you know that you're in that moment, and that will open a communication that sometimes does, and that's in a deeper listening. So I just wanted to add that to what we've been saying here.
Thank you, Gabriella. There are 2 data points I want to kind of share. One is the LGBTQ community are 4 times more susceptible to suicide, right? They are 8 times more susceptible if the parents don't agree. Just think about that, right? Now that is something we can do something about. Awareness is key to transformation. Just knowing about this, be just more aware. And I'm from San Diego. I'm from, in my backyard I have the Navy SEALs, the Pendletons, Miramar. But in this great country, 22 veterans commit suicide every day. Right? These are the warriors. So what's happening here? And that's very interesting, talking about what can we do. The US Navy has this acronym. And the acronym is called Is Path Warm, in my Indian accent. I is for ideation, right? S is for substance abuse. P is lack of purpose. A is anxiety. T is lack of trust. H is lack of hope. W is withdrawn, hope. W is withdrawn. A is anger. R is recklessness. M is mood change. When we actually are a community and we sit down for breakfast, lunch, dinner, we see these signs, right? I understand, what is this ideation? How can I have this conversation? You look anxious today. You did something really reckless yesterday. Why did you do that, right? So this acronym is Path Warm. It's from the US Navy. I believe it's something we can all adopt within our communities. So no longer we just saying, hey, how's your day? Awesome. No, it's not awesome. It sucks today. Can we talk about it, right? So that's I think Candy's okay. She's got a cough. I think she had an allergy. So moving on to the last question before you open up to questions. this is an interesting research. In 2010, Brigham Young University did a research, and they found that weak social connections reduces your life expectancy by 15 years. Right? It's almost like smoking, like I think what the number was, almost 15 cigarettes a day. It's equivalent to that. What can we do to really strengthen social connections? I mean, that's really community. So Deepak, what are your thoughts? And we'll just
Again,
pass it on
I'll just go back to wisdom traditions and what they say. I mean, you know, we don't have rituals anymore for celebration except when they have cheerleaders for sports. But that's the only ritual we have here, you know. But there are rituals for celebration.
We are the national champions, by the way.
Good. Well, it's a great ritual, but you know that kind of ritual should be for everyone, not just for sports. We need rituals for celebration, and ritual is not part of our society anymore. So that's one thing. What was the exact question?
How do we create more tighter social connections? If loneliness is creating this epidemic, if one of the solutions is Sangha, like you talk about,
yeah,
is
so
community.
again, in Eastern wisdom traditions, you know, in the Buddhism, they say, take refuge in the Buddha, which means take refuge in higher consciousness. Take refuge in the Dharma, which means purpose and meaning. And the third is take refuge in the Sangha, in the community. So this is actually part of all traditional societies everywhere in the world. In India, the three words we use are seva, service, sangha, community, and simran, spiritual practice, which includes meditation. So this is not part of our community anymore. And what I'm saying is, if we could create online and offline communities just with those three things, you know, take refuge in higher consciousness, self-awareness, take refuge in the community, and take refuge in the Dharma, the purpose. We all have a purpose, and we all can contribute to the betterment of the world. And then create rituals around that, create meetings around that, create Sangha around that. And these days, you can have global Sanghas through technology.
Yep. Dr. Seymour, any thoughts?
Hard to top that, but thank you. You know, we are approaching, thinking of technology, this as a community, which starts with educating each of us more. For example, we have an online application called Cognito that many universities have embraced, and it really is a chance. It helps us educate our faculty and staff and others to identify challenges among the community. Again, not to solve them, but to identify and help get the resources in place for those who may need it. And the other thing, there's a line in the film which I'm very excited about as it comes together, so congratulations on that. But the idea that we don't have the solution, but we are the solution. And the emphasis on we, I think, is a huge part of that. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. Seymour. Gabriella?
I just think if we break through this numbness, we have a social numbness that is not helping us be social, basically. And the social medias of this world all put us in this pressure pot of existence, you know. So we have an existential crisis that is not only a spiritual, why are we human, why are we here, what is our purpose, but we also have a digital virtual crisis because we don't have enough likes or, you know, enough verifications or enough selfie and enough filters. So I'm saying that coming from the entertainment point of view is that we're entertaining a life that is not real. So how do we reconnect with a real life that has true value and that breaks through into this infinite potential that we are? And so, and that really comes from just checking in and stop being numb. I mean, I want to cry. Well, obviously you saw me crying on screen, you know. I want to be joy. I want to be tears. I want to experience every human emotion that allows me to connect with every and each and every one of you beyond language. I want to connect with a tribe member in Tanzania. That story this morning, I was fascinating. I was like, wow, I want to be able to want. It's the willing. It's the, let's go and find humanity within us. Because we are all humanity in one person. So it's about really the community. We are the community already. We just forgot that we were. You know?
So I guess between illness and wellness is replacing the I with the we, right? And I think that's the answer. And I'm going to quote Art. I've been speaking to him all day today. He had some wisdom today. He says, a bad day for the ego is a great day for the soul. Right? Hello, you quoted somebody. It was Rumi, you said. Okay. But I love that. On that note, I think that was something I took back today. Let's open it up for maybe 5 questions. Anybody had questions? And then we will move into a meditation from Deepak and close. Yes, sir. Actually, you know what will help if we can just line up everybody here, but I'm going to get the one question started right here.
First of all, I was telling Thad Seymour that I actually used to eat in this room when I was a student here, and I'm surprised, I'm surprised the building is still standing, but some days I'm surprised I'm still standing, so it works out perfectly well. Dr. Chopra, you said something I want to tie something back to about 2 things. The statistics about how many young people commit suicide, and then you talked about the brain function that's formed around before 5 years old. There's a whole new discussion about ACE, adverse childhood experience. I'd be curious to know how many of those children who committed suicide had some adverse childhood experience was unattended, and that caused them to commit suicide because they've not attended to it.
Yeah, I don't know the statistics, but I would say almost everyone. Almost everyone. Every problem in adulthood can be traced to childhood trauma, whether it was verbal abuse or sexual abuse or physical abuse, but and the cycle repeats itself over and over, generation after generation. So, and we know that epigenetics, you know, we inherit some of those tendencies too. So the problem is huge. We have to start very early in life, but it's never too late to correct it also. There's evidence now that even intrauterine stress, you know, with the baby in embryo, a mother is stressed and is maybe single or has a huge problem with finances or whatever, it affects the baby in utero before it's born. And if the baby hears in, say, in an urban environment where there's lots of noise and gunshots and ambulance sirens and fire alarms, the baby is conditioned for what is called free-floating anxiety even before it's born. This is the society we live in right now, that we have created, a totally dysfunctional society. So we have to revisit everything about childhood and about education. Education has to be about unfolding a child's potential and a human being's potential, not just giving information. And we have to redefine what it means to be successful. What is success if you're miserable and you end up, you know, look at the amount of celebrities who are committing suicide right now. They have everything, money, fame, fortune, but they're so depressed that they take away their life.
I got something. Ready? Loneliness could come natural for some people, and some people it could come optional. The question is what you was having up. They are never alone. I'm just saying, loneliness could come to a person naturally, but it comes optional for some people.
So I think the question is loneliness natural to someone, or is loneliness optional? It's both. Yeah, I think it could be, yes. I think it is perspective, absolutely. Some people have it, right? I mean, somebody is lonely, it is part of life, but I think loneliness and solitude are two different things. Right?
Solitude, you feel connected to the whole world. Loneliness, you feel separate from the whole world. Yeah.
Hi. First of all, thank you all for doing this. I think this is so important for all of us. I know my husband and I have been through a very rough time the last 5 years. We've had an estrangement from our daughter. And thanks to your meditations and yoga and some of the other modalities that you have all mentioned here today, we are on our way to being happy again. So thank you all. I think my question is that I have friends who have a spouse, a son who have committed suicide, and I don't know how to help them now that they are going through this. So any advice on how to help people get past this after the trauma?
I think the best thing that you can do is be a nurturing, caring, compassionate friend, listening, being caring, but you know, they probably need a lot more help than you could provide them, but always tell them that you're there for them, I think is the best thing that you can do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to everyone on the panel. I've listened to Dr. Chopra for many, many years. And my question is, I work with people who are violent. And so what can we talk about today as to why one person takes that anger inward and kills themselves versus other people who take that aggression out and are violent or commit murder? And so how can we apply the principles to those people? And why do some people choose one over inward aggression over outward aggression?
It's learned. It's learned through the environment. All experience is learned interpretation. So it depends on where you grow up and the environment. We have a program in New York with urban yogis that we introduced in a very high crime environment in Queens, where there are 10, 20 murders a day. For no reason whatsoever. You know, I once asked a kid, why did you shoot the other kid in the bus? He says, I didn't like the way he looked at me. And he pulled out a gun and shot him. And that is the environment. So we created a program for mindfulness there, for rituals, for music, for poetry, for hip hop, and for storytelling. Crime rate went down. In fact, there was no murder in an entire year in the same community where there were 5, 6 murders a day. So you have to change the ecosystem around which this happens. Otherwise, people take it to be normal. People take violence to be normal. It's what we call normal becomes the psychopathology of the average. So you have to change the whole culture in the community. And that takes seva, service, sangha, and practice, spiritual practice. Spiritual practice not meaning you're, praying to some deity or God. It means becoming aware of who you are as a human being. Going beyond your self-image into true self-esteem, which is intimacy with yourself.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for this panel, too. I've heard of Dr. Deepak Chopra a while ago, and I'm really grateful that he came to our campus and that we're having this conversation. I'm actually president of Holistic Healing Organization on campus, and so I care deeply about bringing knowledge of wellness, health, vitality to the students. We teach Tai Chi, meditation, yoga. nutrition, and just have these types of conversations on a regular basis. And one thing that I'd like to ask Dr. Seymour is that we have all-night study, we have the library, we have commons for all types of people. Why don't we have a center for meditation? Or just a 24-hour center where anyone of any religion or philosophy can sit down and just pray and meditate. I'm fortunate enough to rent a house and to have my backyard available when the landscapers aren't mowing their lawns, or my roommates aren't playing Dungeons and Dragons in the living room or playing music. But it would be so nice just to have a space, a safe space on campus to just come and sit with myself.
Would you come see me and we'll talk about it?
Sure.
The Deepak Chopra meditation space.
And if Dr. Seymour agrees to do this, you be in charge and we'll help you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
In the meantime, I'll see you at 7 a.m. yoga at the RWC. How's that?
Maybe.
Challenge.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for being here. I'm here in respect for my school, which I am very blessed to be at a school that promotes kindness and respect and gives me the freedom in my curriculum to put some of this into play. So my question for you is, what can I bring back to my school? How can I supplement my classes, even if I'm doing something 10 to 15 minutes a day? What's going to make the biggest impact on a regular basis to reach my students, to build this community that we are trying to come together with?
I would say just a few breaks, breathing breaks, dancing breaks, poetry breaks, music breaks. We should introduce the love tuner. We have a device that we use. It's called the love tuner, which is basically a little whistle that produces a sound which is supposed to be the frequency of love, 527 hertz. And we gather people in a group and they all breathe together into this whistle. It produces a great sound, but also it feels very energizing. So rituals are important. Rituals are a way of trapping energy and then channeling it into a creative process. And so the more rituals we have, and they don't have to be elaborate, there'll be rituals for joy, for celebration, for play. We mammals love to play, and we are not playing enough.
One more thing I would like to add is Deepak talks about his breath work, right? Breathing.
Breathing, yes.
Breath is something we all can do. It's free of cost. And there's also an app called the Breathing app from Eddie Stern, the Breath app. And anytime you can breathe to a count of 4, but exhale to a count of 8, it actually activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Breath, right? When you're being chased by the lion, it's only breath, right? And today most of us have very shallow breath.
Yes.
Right? So, let's take a deep breath. We feel good, right? Just exhale. And I think this Love Tuner's amazing device, it gets you to have a long exhalation. And it also creates a nice tune.
Love it, love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have more?
I just wanted to tell Dr. Chopra, we do have a little fun at the Mental Health Association. Every other Thursday night, we have expressive arts, and it's one of the most popular things that we do. And people come and do artwork, and it's a lot of fun. And we do have a lot of entertaining type events at the Mental Health Association. So it's not always serious.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi. I just wanted to thank you for what you're bringing to the table here, the panel and the presentation. But then it made me realize the magnitude of the problem here, because look, we moved from a collective society to an individualist society that breeds relative deprivation and things like that. So we're always comparing ourselves to others, right? So we consistently compare ourselves to others. Only thing that's going to stand out are our ineptness, really, right? So here's the thing, though. So we look at the suicide statistics from 10 to 34, right? And then I look at social media, who's on social media. There's no place better to see how you do not compare or how you fail to compare than looking through the lens of social media, which is really a false lens of who people are. It's all make-believe, and then we compare ourselves to that. So now we're feeling really inadequate, right? So now, how does that translate to the child that's on social media? And then I'm starting to connect, and I was like, wow, we've got a really big problem. And so even we've left a collective society to an individualist, highly stratified. So we're in this anomic state that could have almost predicted that this is going to happen, higher suicide rates, right? So the question is, how do we get back to a collective, more collective society where we really cared about each other, instead of this individualist society where we only care about ourselves and are comparing ourselves to other people in this make-believe world that we live in?
That was one thought. I mean, this is from Dr. Varun Sodhi. Deepak introduced me at the Dean of Spiritual Studies at USC. He basically said, today, Punacha, the challenge is kids are speaking with their thumbs, not their tongues, right?
Mm-hmm.
People, we just don't look at people in the eye anymore. We don't actually have a conversation. We literally text. We actually sit down next to each other and text each other, right? So I think we need to first shift the narrative of truly having, we still have 10 toes and 10 fingers. We need to have conversation. I think that's the first step. The second thing is changing the narrative. Today, I think we reward the individual, not the collective. The team won the Super Bowl. We asked, who's the MVP, right? These are like artifacts which are there in society. And Krishnamurti, who is a very famous philosopher, he had one particular quote which I really use as my mantra. He says, comparison and conformity lead to conflict. A mind without conflict is a spiritual mind. Right? So just think about it. Comparison and conformity lead to conflict. A mind without conflict is a spiritual mind. So I think today we are constantly comparing and conforming. If we can be like Deepak says, a child, who just shows up, is just touching everything, feeling everything, infinite joy. It's joy. I think if you have to stop comparing and conforming.
I think social media is here to stay, so you can't stop it. So how do we use it? That's what Never Alone is all about.
Thank you.
I think we have actually two more questions, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. You guys don't know how much you inspired me. I wasn't even supposed to be here tonight, so it's really awesome that you guys put together this event, and I really, really appreciate it. My question has to do with the part of the panel that was talking about trusting. I think as a society, we expect to trust others before we can trust ourselves, and it's kind of one of those things where you can't love others until you love yourself. So what would you guys say is the best way to find self-trust and to really hone in on that before anything else? Because even just a second ago, I was like, do you want to switch with me? Like, I'll go last, because I didn't trust my question. And so I was wondering, what are you guys' best advice when it comes to self-trust?
We'll do a meditation.
I think Deepak will answer through meditation, right?
No, about this issue. You know, it's all, trust comes from knowing who you are and what your purpose is. And then once you express that with authenticity, then you see other people start trusting you. But you have to be in touch with your innermost being. That's why I mentioned meditation.
Yeah. Meditation. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jakayla Miller. I am one of the counseling therapy interns at the Outlook Clinic under Candy. My supervisor is Julie Bilski. And my question is very similar to my sister over here. it would be, how do we practically begin to establish a positive relationship with the most positive parts of ourselves, like tomorrow or tonight? What can we go do to just begin that process? Maybe not complete it holistically, but what kind of steps can we take to just start that process? What does that look like?
We'll go through it right now in 5 minutes. We'll go through a process.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for allowing me to ask this question, the last one. I'm actually asking for my daughter, and she's 14 years old. I've been following Dr. Chopra's work for many years, and we're doing the 21-day meditation together. So I'm doing the group, and my daughter is in there. So she heard that I'm coming, so she wanted to ask this question is, what have you learned from you creating this 21-day meditation and impacted so many lives?
What we've learned is people are so enthusiastic about it that they're creating their own WhatsApp groups and they're actually taking it to the next level. So we give them the basic template for meditation, but then they create their own leadership in the group and they give each other tasks to do, behavioral changes, taking action. As saying, I feel love and I have compassion is not good enough. How do you put that into practice? You know, love without action is meaningless. Action without love is irrelevant. But when you have love and action, then you have something going. So that's what is happening with these groups. They're taking action.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So Deepak, you want to close it with a meditation?
Okay, so
3 minute.
yeah, so let's 5 minutes. People said, how can we start? So we're starting now, okay? Please close your eyes and put your feet firmly on the ground. Put your hands in your lap comfortably. And just close your eyes and observe your breath for a minute or so. Just observing the breath without manipulating it will quieten your mind. The movement of breath and the movement of thought go together. So being a witness of your breath will automatically slow everything down. And now please bring your awareness to your heart and mentally ask yourself the following question. Who am I? Don't try to answer it, just ask the question. Whatever comes up is fine, even if nothing comes up. Ask the question. Who am I? Now ask the question, what do I want? Again, don't try to answer it, just see what comes up. Any sensation, any feeling, any thought, any image. What do I want? Third question, what is my purpose? Once again, don't try to answer it, just be receptive to any sensation, any image, any feeling, any thought. What is my purpose? Fourth and final question, what am I grateful for? Gratitude is the most holy, sacred emotion we can experience. When you're feeling gratitude for whatever you have already, it's impossible to be depressed. What am I grateful for? Allowing any sensation, any image, any feeling, any thought to come to you. And now bring your awareness into your entire body, feeling your body from the inside out. And let's plant 4 intentions into the body, which is a field of awareness. Our body is a field of awareness. So we plant a seed there, let it blossom on its own. So feel your body. As I articulate these intentions, you can mentally embed them in your body as you're feeling the body. Joyful, energetic body. Mentally say it a few times and then feel your body. Now bring your awareness to your heart, in the middle of your chest. Loving, compassionate heart. Few times. At the same time, feel your heart. And now bring your awareness to your third eye, between the eyebrows. Reflective, alert mind. Few times, keeping your awareness in the third eye. Reflective, alert mind. And now let your awareness go beyond the boundaries of your skin. Let your awareness expand across all of space and time. Lightness of being. Lightness of being. Now bring your awareness back into your body. Relax into your body. Take a few seconds before you open your eyes. So we start even this little ritual every morning. If you can just watch your breath for a few minutes, 3-4 minutes, ask 4 questions, and then seed your consciousness with 4 intentions. The 4 questions are: who am I? What do I want? What's my purpose? What am I grateful for? These are the most important questions of our existence. And we go through an entire lifetime without asking them. And then 4 intentions: joyful, energetic body, loving, compassionate heart, clear, quiet, reflective mind, lightness of being. What more do you want? Start every day like this, 10 minutes. And you've started a ritual for reflective self-awareness. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Deepak. Thank you, Dr. Seymour. And I guess Candy, and thank you, Gabriella. Thank you.